3 hours after the vote, a secret meeting was happening deep under the mountains of South Korea. Director Hyejin sat at a large metal table surrounded by screens showing star maps and ship designs. She was a small woman with gray hair, but her eyes were sharp and determined. Around the table sat 12 other people. These were the leaders of humanity's most secret project. For 30 years, they had been preparing for this exact moment. "The message just came in," Hyejin said, looking at her tablet. "Admiral Tae-ho confirms it. The council voted 734 to 113. We are officially exiled." A man named Jun-ho, who looked like a simple farmer, shook his head. 30 years of preparation, and they still surprised us with how fast they moved. "Actually," said a woman named Ah-young, "they moved exactly as our computers predicted they would. Fear makes people predictable." Director Hyejin stood up and walked to a massive screen on the wall. With the push of a button, the screen showed a map of the galaxy. But this was not a normal map. This one showed hundreds of small dots in places where no one was supposed to live. "Ladies and gentlemen," Hyejin said, "it is time to activate Protocol Exodus." The room was quiet for a moment. Protocol Exodus was the plan they had hoped they would never need to use. "How many ships are ready?" asked Won-sik, an old man with thick glasses. He was the lead scientist of something called the Genesis Project. 847 colony ships, Hyejin answered. "Each one can carry 50,000 people plus supplies for 10 years. We also have 450 construction ships and 200 military vessels." Jun-ho whistled softly. "That's enough for almost everyone." "Not everyone," Hyejin said sadly. "We can take 2.3 billion people. That leaves about 500 million who will have to stay and hide on Earth." On the other side of the planet, Commander So-young was standing in what looked like an asteroid mining station. But it was not really a mining station. It was a massive spaceship, disguised to look like a rock. "All systems are green," reported her second-in-command, a young man named Kaite. "The engines are ready, life support is working, and the food gardens are growing well." So-young nodded. She was the leader of the advanced scout fleets. For 20 years, she had been secretly visiting planets far beyond Council space. She had found 12 worlds that could support human life. "What about the other stations?" she asked. "Station 7 is having problems with their water recyclers, but Station 12 says they can share. Station 4 found something interesting on their scouting mission." "What kind of interesting?" Kaite smiled. "They found aliens, Commander, but not Council aliens. These ones never joined the galactic government. They've been hiding from the Council for hundreds of years." So-young raised her eyebrows. "Are they friendly?" "Very friendly. They want to trade with us. They have technology the Council has never seen." Back in the secret bunker, Director Hyejin was showing the group something that would have shocked the aliens. On the screen was a list of human technology that was better than anything the Council had. "Our faster-than-light engines are twice as fast as theirs," she said. "Our computers are 10 times smarter. Our weapons are, well, let's just say they work very well." Dr. Won-sik stood up. He was excited about something. "Show them the Genesis Project," he said. Hyejin pressed another button. The screen now showed pictures of dead planets that had been turned into garden worlds. Beautiful blue oceans, green forests, and white clouds-covered worlds that had once been nothing but rock and ice. "In 30 years, we have secretly terraformed 43 worlds," Hyejin said. "Each one can support 10 million people. The Council thinks terraforming takes 500 years. We can do it in 5. A woman named Su-jin, who was in charge of food production, smiled. "We've also been secretly growing food in space for decades. Our farms produce 3 times more food per acre than Earth farms." "How is that possible?" asked Jun-ho. "We don't follow the Council's rules about genetic modification," Su-jin said. "We made plants that grow faster, taste better, and need less water." The room was quiet as everyone thought about what this meant. Humanity had not just been surviving in the galaxy. They had been secretly becoming stronger. Meanwhile, on the Soul's Pride, Admiral Tae-ho was reading reports that made his head spin. Captain Minne had been very busy. "Sir, you need to see this," she said, handing him a thick folder. "I've been tracking Council military movements for the past 6 months. They've been moving warships toward our sector. Tejo opened the folder and saw star charts covered in red marks. Each red mark was a council warship. "How many ships?" he asked. "Over 3,000, sir. That's the largest fleet in council history." 3,000 ships just to keep us trapped in our solar system? Minnie shook her head. "Sir, I don't think they plan to just trap us. I've been listening to their military communications. They're talking about something called permanent compliance enforcement." Tejo felt cold. "What does that mean?" "I think it means they plan to make sure we can never become strong enough to leave our system. Ever." At that moment, Tejo's communication device started beeping. It was a priority message from Earth. From Director Hyojin, the message was short. "Admiral, please come to Location 7 immediately. Bring your best officers. It's time you learned the truth about what humanity has really been doing for the past 30 years. 2 hours later, Tejo and Mine were in a fast shuttle flying toward what looked like an empty part of space. But as they got closer, the empty space began to change. A massive space station appeared, bigger than anything Tejo had ever seen. "How is this possible?" Mine whispered. "Stealth technology," said the shuttle pilot, a cheerful woman named Unbi. "We've been hiding our real activities from council sensors for decades." Inside the station, Tejo met Director Hyojin for the first time. She looked tired but determined. "Admiral," she said, "welcome to Exodus Station 1. What I'm about to show you will change everything you thought you knew about humanity's place in the galaxy." She led them to a viewing window. Outside, Tejo could see something impossible. Hundreds of massive ships were lined up in perfect rows. Each ship was the size of a small city. "Those are colony ships," Hyojin said. "Each one is a complete world unto itself. Farms, factories, schools, hospitals, everything humans need to survive and grow." "How long have you been building these?" Tejo asked. 30 years. We started the day after our first meeting with the council. We knew this day would come." Mine was staring at the ships with her mouth open. "How many people do you think we are?" "We're not victims, Admiral," Hyojin said. "We're not even refugees. We're pioneers. The council thinks they're punishing us, but they're actually setting us free." She handed Tejo a datapad. On it was a star map showing routes to dozens of worlds beyond council space. "In 72 hours, we begin the largest migration in human history," she said. 2.3 billion people will leave Earth forever, and where we're going, the council will never find us." Tejo looked at the star map, then at the colony ships, then at Director Hyojin's confident face. "You planned all of this," he said. "You knew they would exile us." "We hoped they wouldn't," she replied, "but we prepared for when they would. The question now, Admiral, is simple. Will you help us lead humanity to its new home among the stars?" Outside the station, long-range sensors detected something alarming. A massive council fleet was approaching Earth. They would arrive in less than 48 hours. The exodus was about to begin. Admiral Tejo stood on the bridge of the Soul's Pride, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. The ship was humanity's newest and strongest warship. It floated in space near Earth's moon, waiting for orders that might never come. "Sir, we're getting something strange," Captain Mine said from her station. She was the ship's intelligence officer, always listening to radio signals from across the galaxy. Her face looked worried. "What kind of strange?" Tejo asked, walking over to her desk. Mine put her hand on her earpiece and listened carefully. "It's from the Galactic Council chambers. They're having some kind of emergency meeting. All 847 member species are there." Tejo felt his stomach drop. Emergency meetings were never good news for humanity. The human race had joined the galactic community only 200 years ago, and they were still the newest members. Most alien species looked at humans like dangerous children who played with fire. "Can you hear what they're saying?" Tejo asked. "I'm trying, sir. The signal is very weak. But I think they're talking about us." On the other side of the galaxy, in a massive space station that looked like a giant metal flower, thousands of alien beings sat in curved rows. The council chamber was huge, with seats for every species in the galaxy. Some aliens were tall and thin like trees. Others were short and round like rocks. Some had many arms, others had no arms at all. At the center of the chamber stood High Counselor Vextar, an ancient being with purple skin and 4 eyes. He had been leading the council for over 300 years. His voice was deep and cold. "Fellow beings of the galaxy," Vextar said, "we are here to discuss the human problem." A wave of whispers went through the chamber. Some aliens nodded their heads. Others made clicking sounds or flashed different colors with their skin. "The humans have been with us for 200 years," Vextar continued. "In that short time, they have broken more rules than any species in our history. They take our technology and make it better. They ask questions we have never asked. They change things that have worked for thousands of years." An alien that looked like a giant spider raised one of its legs. "They are dangerous," it said in a voice like breaking glass. "On my world, human traders came with new farming machines. Now my people want to change everything. They say the old ways are too slow." Another alien, this one covered in blue fur, stood up. "The humans helped my people cure a disease that killed our children for 500 years. But they did it by breaking 3 of our oldest laws about genetic research. That is exactly the problem," Vextar said. "Humans do not follow our ways. They do not respect our traditions. They think their new ideas are better than wisdom that is thousands of years old." Back on the Soul's Pride, Mine's face had gone very pale. She was typing fast on her computer, recording everything she could hear. "Sir," she said quietly, "I think we need to call Earth right away." "What are you hearing?" Tejo asked. They're voting on something. Something about quarantine and exile." Tejo felt like someone had hit him in the chest. "Exile? They want to kick us out of the galaxy?" "I think so, sir. Let me try to get a clearer signal." Down in the ship's engine room, Chief Engineer Dongsu was working on humanity's newest invention. It was a faster-than-light engine that was twice as fast as anything the aliens had ever built. The aliens said it was impossible, but humans had built it anyway. Dongsu wiped sweat from his face and smiled. Tomorrow he was supposed to show the engine to alien scientists. They would probably be very surprised. He had no idea that tomorrow might never come. In the council chamber, the debate was getting louder. More and more aliens were standing up to speak. "The humans are like a virus," said a creature that looked like a walking tree. "They spread their ideas everywhere they go. My people used to be happy with simple lives. Now they want to explore space and build new things. They ask too many questions," added an alien with skin like metal. "Why do we do things this way? Why don't we try something new? Why? They never stop asking why." But not all the aliens agreed. A small group near the back of the chamber stood up. Their leader was an old alien with golden skin and kind eyes. "The humans have helped us too," she said. "When the plague of silence hit our worlds, human doctors worked day and night to save our people. They did not ask for money or power. They just helped because it was right. And they share their knowledge freely," added another alien. "Most species keep their best technology secret. Humans teach anyone who wants to learn." High Counselor Vextar raised his hand for silence. "These are all good points," he said. "But the question is simple. Can we allow a species that changes everything they touch to remain in our peaceful galaxy?" "They are too dangerous," said the spider-like alien. "In 200 years, they have advanced more than most species do in 2,000 years. If we let them stay, they will change everything. Our ancient ways will be forgotten." "Maybe our ancient ways need to change," said the golden-skinned alien. "Maybe we have been sleeping for too long." The chamber exploded in angry voices. Some aliens were shouting. Others were making strange musical sounds, and a few were changing colors very quickly. Vextar called for order. "Enough! It is time to vote. All who believe humans should be exiled from galactic society, raise your voting device." Across the chamber, lights began to appear. Red lights meant yes to exile. Green lights meant no. Blue lights meant undecided. On the Soul's Pride, Mine was listening with all her strength. She could barely hear the alien voices, but she caught the most important words. "Sir," she whispered, "they're voting now. I can see the results coming in." Tejo stood behind her, his hands gripping the back of her chair. Around the bridge, other officers had stopped their work to listen. Red lights. 7:34, Minnie said, her voice shaking. Green lights. 113. Blue lights. 0. The bridge was completely quiet for a long moment. What does that mean? Asked a young officer. Tejo's voice was very quiet when he answered. It means we're exiled, cut off from the galaxy, alone, in the council chamber. Vextar looked at the results and nodded. The vote is complete. By a count of 734 to 113, the human species is hereby exiled from galactic society. They will be quarantined in their home system and forbidden from leaving. But Minnie heard something else in the alien chatter. Her eyes went wide with fear. Sir, she said, grabbing Tejo's arm, there's more. They're not just planning to isolate us. I'm hearing words like permanent solution and ensure compliance. What are you saying? Sir, they've voted us out. But I found something else. They're not just planning to isolate us. They're planning to ensure we never leave our solar system again. Tejo stared at the stars outside the window. In the distance, Earth looked like a small blue marble. Soon, it might be the only home humanity would ever know. But he did not know that far below, in secret bunkers around the world, other humans were already preparing for this day. They had been preparing for a very long time. 1 year after the exile vote, High Counselor Vextar stood before an emergency session of the Galactic Council. But this time, many seats were empty. Over 300 species had left the council to join humanity's growing federation. Fellow beings, Vextar said, his voice shaking with anger. We face the greatest crisis in our history. The humans have destroyed everything we have built. But from the back of the chamber, a familiar voice spoke up. We haven't destroyed anything, we've just given people a choice. Everyone turned to see President Seok Jin walking down the center aisle. Behind him came Admiral Tejo, Director Hye Jin, and other human leaders. They were not prisoners or refugees. They walked like equals. You are not welcome here, Vextar snarled. Actually, said Admiral Bora, humanity's new fleet commander, they invited us. She gestured to the many alien representatives who were applauding the humans' arrival. These were the species that had remained in the council but wanted change. President Seok Jin stepped up to the speaking platform. Counselor Vextar, 1 year ago you voted to exile humanity from the galaxy. Today, I come here to offer the council a choice. What kind of choice? Vextar asked suspiciously. The choice to join the future, Seok Jin said simply. The Human Colonial Federation now includes 67 species across 234 star systems. Our technology has advanced beyond anything the Council has ever seen. Our people are happy, healthy, and free. On the main screen, images appeared of the Federation's worlds. There were cities that floated in the sky, farms that grew in space, and hospitals that could cure any disease. There were schools where aliens and humans learned together, and laboratories where the greatest minds in the galaxy worked on amazing discoveries. This is what we've built in just 1 year, Seok Jin continued. Imagine what we could build together. But Vextar was not impressed. You offer chaos and change. We offer order and stability. You offer stagnation and fear, said Ambassador Changmin, humanity's diplomatic representative. We offer growth and hope. An alien delegate stood up. She was one of the species that had remained loyal to the council. What exactly are you proposing? She asked. President Seok Jin smiled. We propose that the council dissolve its old restrictions on technology and trade. We propose that every species be free to grow and learn at their own pace. We propose that instead of one rigid government, we have a cooperation of free peoples. And if we refuse? Vextar asked. Then you refuse, Seok Jin said with a shrug. We won't force you to change. That's the difference between us. We believe in choice. Admiral Bora stepped forward. But I should mention that our fleet is now larger and more advanced than anything the Council has ever assembled. If you try to attack our worlds or force our allies back into the Council, you will lose. Is that a threat? Vexitar demanded. It's a fact, Bora said calmly. but we'd rather be friends than enemies. The chamber was quiet for a long moment. Then one by one, alien delegates began to stand up. They were not standing to argue or complain. They were standing to show their support for the human proposal. Even some of Vextar's oldest allies were standing. Finally, the delegate from the oldest species in the galaxy stood up. She was ancient even by alien standards, and when she spoke, everyone listened. "I have lived for 800 years, she said in a voice like whispers. "I have seen the galaxy grow smaller and more afraid with each passing century. These humans, they remind us of what we used to be, what we could be again." She looked directly at Vextar. "I vote to accept the human proposal. It is time for change." The vote was not even close. 523 species voted to accept the new system. Only 89 voted to keep the old council ways. Vextar stared at the results in shock. In 1 year, humanity had not just survived exile, they had transformed the entire galaxy. President Siak Jin walked over to Vextar and extended his hand. "The invitation stands for your people too, Counselor. There's room in the galaxy for everyone." Vextar looked at the human's hand for a long moment. Then slowly he reached out and shook it. "Perhaps," he said quietly, "it is time to learn new ways." 6 months later, the galaxy was unrecognizable. The old council was gone, replaced by the Galactic Federation of Free Worlds. Trade flowed freely between star systems. New technologies appeared every day. Diseases that had killed for thousands of years were being cured. Captain Yunbi, now an admiral in charge of exploration, stood on the bridge of her ship as it approached a newly discovered world. This world was inhabited by a species that had been hiding from the old council for centuries. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "the aliens on the planet are asking if we're from the Federation." "Tell them yes," Yunbi said. "Tell them we come in peace and we'd like to be friends." "They're asking what we want from them," the officer continued. Yunbi smiled. It was the same question aliens always asked, because the old council had always wanted something from everyone. "Tell them we want them to be happy and free," she said. "Tell them that's what friends do for each other." On Earth, now a beautiful garden world again, children played in parks where alien and human families lived side by side. In schools, young beings from dozens of species learned together about science, art, and the endless possibilities of the universe. And in a small museum in Seoul, there was a simple plaque that told the story of humanity's exile. The plaque ended with these words: "The Galactic Council voted to exile Earth. They thought they were punishing us. Instead, they gave us the greatest gift possible, the chance to show the galaxy what freedom really means." The galaxy had voted to exile humanity, but humanity had transformed that exile into the galaxy's salvation. And that, everyone agreed, was the most human thing of all. High Admiral Corvin of the Alteran Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, the galaxy's judgment. Behind him floated the largest war fleet in Council history, 3,000 ships from dozens of different alien worlds. They had come to make sure humanity stayed in their place forever. "How long until we reach Earth?" Corvin asked his navigation officer. 6 hours, sir," the officer replied. The officer looked like a giant blue crab with too many eyes. Corvin smiled with his sharp teeth. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and no hair. His species had been part of the Council for over 2,000 years. They believed in order and control. "Above all else, the humans will probably be crying and begging when they see us," Corvin said to his officers. "They always think they can talk their way out of trouble." But when the Council fleet arrived at Earth's solar system, something was very wrong. The space around Earth was too quiet. Usually, there were thousands of human ships moving between Earth, the Moon, and Mars. Now, there were almost none. "Sir," said the sensor officer, "I'm not detecting normal traffic patterns." "What do you mean?" Corvin asked. "There should be 50,000 ships in this system. I'm only seeing about 200. On Earth, Captain Jaewon sat in a small communication center, hidden deep underground. He was young and nervous, but he had been chosen for a very important job. Around him, other humans were working at computers and radio equipment. "Sir," said a technician named Minsu, "the Council fleet just entered our solar system." Jaewon nodded. "Begin the broadcast. Send it on all frequencies." High Admiral Corvin was about to order his ships to surround Earth when every screen on his bridge lit up with the same message. A young human face appeared, speaking in calm, clear words. "Greetings, Council forces," Captain Jaewon said from his recording. "By the time you hear this message, humanity has already left Earth. You voted to exile us, but we've already exiled ourselves." Corvin's mouth fell open. Around the bridge, his officers were making confused noises. The human on the screen continued. "You will find some of our people still on Earth, but they are volunteers who chose to stay and guard our homeworld. The rest of us, 2.3 billion humans, have gone to places you will never find." "This is impossible," Corvin shouted. "How could they move so many people so quickly?" But Jaewon was not finished. "You thought we were weak and unprepared. You were wrong. We have been preparing for this day for 30 years. What you'll find here is not what we were, but what we've left behind for you." The message ended and Corvin's fleet moved toward Earth. But as they got closer, strange things began to happen. The first Council ship to approach Earth's moon suddenly lost power. All its systems shut down, and it began drifting in space. "What happened?" Corvin demanded. "Unknown, sir. Their engines just stopped working." A second ship tried to land on Mars. As soon as it touched the surface, alarms began screaming inside the ship. The air became hard to breathe, and the crew had to evacuate immediately. Captain Unbi was the youngest colony ship commander in the human fleet. Her ship, the New Soul, carried 50,000 people toward a planet called Haven's Rest. It was a beautiful world with blue oceans and green forests, located far beyond Council space. As her ship traveled through the darkness between stars, Yunbi walked through the corridors talking to her people. Many of them were scared and sad about leaving Earth forever. "Captain," said an old woman named Hai Sun, "will we ever see Earth again?" Yunbi sat down next to her. "I don't know, grandmother, but we're going to build something better than Earth, a place where humans can grow and learn without anyone trying to stop us." A small boy named Junwoo was playing with a toy spaceship. "Captain, are the aliens really bad?" "Not all of them," Yunbi said, "but some of them are afraid of change. They want everything to stay the same forever. We believe things should always get better." Meanwhile, back in Earth's solar system, High Admiral Corvin was having the worst day of his military career. Every time his ships tried to do something, they ran into problems that seemed impossible. Ships that landed on Earth found that all the important buildings were empty. Worse, many of them were booby-trapped with devices that made the air smell terrible or caused bright lights to flash continuously. "Sir," reported his chief engineer, a creature that looked like a walking tree, "the humans have destroyed or hidden everything useful. All their factories are empty, all their computers have been wiped clean, even their garbage is gone." But the worst discovery came when they tried to explore the underground cities where some humans were still living. The tunnels were like mazes, filled with traps and dead ends. Every time Council soldiers thought they had found something important, it turned out to be fake. Specialist Kyung-ho smiled as he watched the alien soldiers on his security cameras. He was in charge of the underground defense systems. For months, he and his team had been preparing surprises for unwelcome visitors. "How are our guests doing?" asked his assistant, a woman named Young-A. "Frustrated," Kyung-ho replied. "They've been walking in circles for 6 hours. Every door they open leads to another empty room." Young-A laughed. "My favorite is the room that plays children's songs at full volume." "Wait until they find the room full of rubber balls," Kyung-ho said. "That one took me weeks to set up." But the Council forces' biggest shock came when they realized what humanity had really left behind. Hidden throughout the galaxy were thousands of small devices, each one no bigger than a coin. These devices had been secretly placed on alien worlds over the past 20 years. The devices were not weapons. They were something much more dangerous to the Council's way of life. They were teachers. 6 months after humanity's departure, The galaxy was changing in ways the Council never expected. In a secret meeting room on the planet Altair Prime, Council leaders were trying to understand what was happening. "Report," said High Counselor Vextar to his intelligence chief. The intelligence chief, a nervous creature with purple fur, shuffled through his papers. "Sir, we have a problem. Several of our member worlds are acting strangely." "What do you mean by strangely?" "They're asking questions, sir. Lots of questions. Questions about why we do things the way we do them. Questions about whether there might be better ways." Vextar's four eyes narrowed. "This sounds like human influence." "It is, sir. We've discovered that the humans left behind more than empty buildings. They left behind ideas." On the planet Zephyr 7, a young alien named Kixtal was working in her family's farm. But she was not farming the way her people had farmed for 1,000 years. She was using new techniques that made her crops grow twice as fast and taste much better. Her father, an old alien with blue skin and 6 arms, was not happy. "These are human ideas," he said. "The Council says human ideas are dangerous." "But father," Kixtal said, "look at our harvest. We have more food than ever before. Our neighbors are not hungry anymore. That is not the point. We should do things the way we have always done them." Kixtal looked at the small device she had found in her field 6 months ago. It looked like a simple rock, but when she touched it, it had shown her pictures of new farming methods. The device had taught her how to make better soil and how to protect her crops from insects without poison. "Maybe the old ways are not always the best ways," she said quietly. Similar conversations were happening on hundreds of worlds across the galaxy. The small teaching devices that humans had left behind were spreading knowledge faster than the Council could stop it. On the planet Crimson Falls, an alien engineer named Zolbar was building machines that could clean polluted water in minutes instead of years. On the world of Crystal Gardens, alien doctors were using new techniques to heal diseases that had killed their people for centuries. But the most shocking discovery came from Admiral Te-Ho, who was now leading humanity's deep space fleets from his new flagship, the Freedom's Light. "Captain Minne," he said, "show me the latest intelligence reports." Minne, who was now in charge of all human intelligence operations, smiled as she pulled up a star map on the main screen. "Sir, you're going to love this." The map showed the galaxy divided into different colors. Green areas were still under full Council control. Yellow areas were having problems with new ideas. Red areas were in open rebellion. "How much of the galaxy is red?" Te-Ho asked. 37%, sir, and growing every day." "What are they rebelling against?" "The Council's ban on technological progress, the Council's rules about genetic research, the Council's laws against free trade. Basically, they want the same freedoms we wanted." But Minne had saved the best news for last. "Sir, we've also been contacted by Agent Insu." Agent Insu had been humanity's most successful deep-cover operative. For 15 years he had worked as a simple trader, traveling from world to world and making friends with aliens who were tired of the Council's rigid rules. "What does Insu report?" Te-Ho asked. "Sir, he says that 200 different alien species want to join our colonial federation. They want us to lead them." Te-Ho sat down heavily in his captain's chair. "Lead them? We're supposed to be exiles." "That's just it, sir. We're not exiles anymore. We're liberators. Every world that breaks free from the Council wants to be like us. Free to grow, free to learn, free to become better." On a beautiful world called New Harmony, President Seok-Jin was meeting with representatives from dozens of alien species. Seok-Jin had been elected as the first leader of the Human Colonial Federation. He was a calm, wise man who believed in cooperation over conquest. "My friends," he said to the assembled aliens, "the Human Colonial Federation welcomes all beings who believe in freedom and progress." A tall alien with silver skin stood up. "President Seok-Jin, my people have suffered under Council rule for 500 years. They tell us we cannot improve our technology because it might be dangerous, but our children are dying from diseases that your human medicine could cure." "We will help you," Seok-Jin said simply. "That is what friends do." A small, furry alien raised her hand. "But what do you want in return?" The council always wants something. Jin smiled. We want you to be happy and free. We want you to grow and learn and become the best version of yourselves. That is all. The aliens looked at each other in amazement. No one had ever offered them help without wanting something back. Meanwhile, the council was discovering that their worst fears were coming true. Humanity's network of friends and allies was growing stronger every day. Species that had been loyal council members for thousands of years were now asking dangerous questions. Why can't we trade freely with whoever we want? They asked. Why? Can't we research new technology? They demanded. Why can't we make our own decisions about our own worlds? They insisted. The council's answer was always the same. Because that is not how things are done. But more and more aliens were saying, maybe it's time to change how things are done.